Good morning and welcome to the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. I am Xavier McFarlane. Today, before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight some important individuals with us this morning. The Honorable Marlene Malahoo Ford, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Ambassador Sheila Seeley Monteith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Mr. Wayne O. Robertson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Mr. Michael Morgan, Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of National Security. Mr. Jermaine Barrett, Founder and Executive Director of JADE. Dr. Richard Emenia, UNAIDS Multicultural and Multi-Country Director. Veronica Sinak, UNAIDS Regional Advisor of Human Rights and Law, Latin America and the Caribbean. Javian Nelson, Advisor and Community Support. Michael Jackson, Executive Director of Jamaica for Justice. Novia Campbell from UNICEF, and Ravon Thomas Matthews, Special Projects Manager from JADE. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Lovely. It is my great honor to welcome you all to the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. Round of applause. This event celebrates the art of persuasion, the power of speech, and the spirit of healthy competition among the brightest minds from high schools across Jamaica. This year's theme, Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now, could not be more timely or relevant. It challenges all of us to reflect deeply on the importance of human rights as the foundation of justice, equality, and opportunity, while also urging us to act decisively to shape a better future. Today, our talented debaters will take on this theme, presenting diverse perspectives and exploring how the rights we hold today influence the world we'll live in tomorrow. Debating is not just about argumentation. It is about listening, understanding, and engaging critically with ideas that shape our societies. It empowers young people to become thoughtful leaders, advocates for change, and defenders of the values that unite us. To our debaters, I encourage you to take this opportunity to let your voices resonate powerfully. The arguments you present today may challenge norms, inspire solutions, and even spark movements. Remember that through discourse, you are shaping not only your own futures, but also the future of our collective community. A special thanks goes to our judges, educators, and organizing committee for your dedication and hard work in making this event a reality. Your efforts ensure that this competition continues to be a platform for youth empowerment and intellectual growth. Let us all remember, the words we speak today have the power to inspire action. As we celebrate this competition, let us also commit ourselves to advancing the principles of dignity, justice, and equality for all, not just as aspirations, but as lived realities. Once again, welcome to the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. And now we must put God first. And to give the opening prayer is Miss Dejanay Fagan from JADE.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. Most righteous and eternal Father, as we are gathered here in your presence this beautiful Tuesday morning, Lord, I thank you for the cause that we have gathered here. I pray, Lord, that you will remove all anxiety, nervousness, and fear from the debaters' bodies. I pray, Lord, that they will be able to effectively delineate their stance as they join us here today to talk about issues that are very relevant and very crucial in our society. Lord, I pray that you will be with us, that you will guide us, protect us, and bless us. And that when these debaters and all the persons within the ambits of their voices leave here today, they will spread the art of debating. They will help the world to understand that effective communication is the way to go and not to fist it out. Thank you for all you've done for us thus far, all that you're doing now, and all that you're about to do. Through Christ, the most precious, holy, matchless name, I pray, Lord. Amen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fagan. This year, the competition was put on in partnership with the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment, JADE Limited. To give you an overview of this competition is Mr. Ravon Thomas Matthews.
Good morning. Hold on, man. Where are my debaters? Good morning. It is a pleasure to see you all. I see some familiar faces, some faces that I've only seen through the screen, and I know for sure that we are in for a wonderful, wonderful debate today. Now, as you know, I am Ravon Thomas Matthews, Special Projects Manager for the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment. And, you know, that's a long title. For this competition, what you need to know is that if you see me speaking, that means that matches are going to happen. Yes? So, debaters, I know you're a little bit nervous. After I give the overview, we're going to head right into the third place finals. But fear not, debaters. Ignore the cameras, ignore the lights. I have seen you debate throughout this competition, and I know that each and every one of you has what it takes to do an outstanding job. Right? All right. So, for this competition, we had 20 schools registering. Yes, we didn't plan to have that many schools registering. We only planned to accommodate 16 schools. But when we sent out the registration, what we saw is that we had an oversubscription. The schools were so excited to join in on this competition surrounding human rights that we had to go back and we said, boy, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, I have a proposition for you. Can we accommodate these extra 4 schools? And we want to thank the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for graciously approving that request. Give them a round of applause. And so round 1 kicked off with 20 schools debating across 2 days. The schools in no particular order, of course. We saw Clarendon College, Charlemont High School, Knox College, Eltham High School, Port Antonio High School, Merle Grove High School. We saw St. Diego High School, Excelsior High School, Herbert Morrison Technical High School, and Happy Grove High School. Ladies and gentlemen, that was on day 1. On day 2, we saw Cornwall College, Queen School, Arden High School, the Hampton School, Mount Alvernia High School, Ocho Rios High School, Wilmer's Boys School, Titchfield High School, Maud McLeod High School, and Campion College, rounding out the first series of matches in this competition. That was a spectacular, spectacular period. Coming out from round 1, we saw an interesting trend that I think you'll be able to appreciate here. And as we go on, you'll see this a little bit more. That throughout the entire competition, the 4 teams that you see debating today, St. Diego High School, Wilmer's High School, Titchfield High School, Herbert Morrison Technical High School, they never placed less than number 5 on the leaderboard. They were consistently in the top. I think they deserve a round of applause for that. Then we moved on into round 2. And this is where things heated up just a little bit more. Yes, we saw Wilmer's Boys School going up against Ocho Rios High School. Wilmer's, are you here? Yes. Wonderful. Wilmer's Boys School was successful in that match, knocking out Ocho Rios High School. They were debating the motion this house would require that employers disclose a fixed, non-negotiable salary. On the same motion, we saw Clarendon College debate against the Hampton School. Then we saw Cornwall College debating Knox College. Campion College debating Herbert Morrison Technical High School. Herbert, are you here? Here, here. Herbert Morrison Technical High School knocking Campion College out of the competition. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that is no small feat because Campion College actually won a competition right before this. But Herbert Morrison did not let that daunt them. Herbert Morrison came forward with a brilliant assessment of ideas and arguments and were victorious in that match, questioning whether we would play prioritize STEM education, even at the cost of cultural rights. And Herbert Morrison was successful in that endeavor. Then we see something interesting. We saw St. Jago High School going up against Titchfield High School. Now, this is a knockout competition, but yet still both teams are here, both St. Jago and Titchfield. What happened? Well, St. Jago did an astounding job, knocking Titchfield out of the competition, advancing on to the next round. Commendations, Team St. Jago. Give yourselves a round of applause. But let me tell you something. Team Titchfield did such an astounding job in that match. I see a young lady down there like, of course we did, right? Team Titchfield did such an amazing job. We had to say no. The wildcard slot for this competition must go to Team Titchfield High School. Give yourself a round of applause, Titchfield High. Then moving on, we saw Mergrove High School facing off against Arden High School, and that was round 2. Then we moved into the quarterfinals. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, when I wake up in the morning and I realize that I have the quarterfinals match going on, I get myself a cup of coffee, because I know I'm in for a fight, and a fight indeed it was. Herbert Morrison Technical High School debated against Mergrove High School. They debated whether or not we should support free speech absolutism, a really important topic, some very, very relevant to the question of national human rights. Herbert Morrison was victorious. Then we saw Clarendon College debate against St. Jago High School, and St. Jago triumphed on that in the same motion. Then we saw Cornwall College go up against Titchfield High School. Cornwall College, one of our strongest teams going up against Titchfield High School, the team that didn't advance by a win, but Titchfield took that personally and said, I am going to win this match. And indeed, Titchfield High School was absolutely right. They debated the motion, this house supports the appropriation of Jamaican culture for profit by non-citizens. And then finally, we saw, ladies and gentlemen, a stellar match. It's live on YouTube. I encourage you to go back and watch that match. That match was between one of our finalists, Wilmer's Boys School, and Campion College. Yes, that match, ladies and gentlemen, cumulatively scored the greatest amount of points for the entire competition. Wilmer's Boys School did such a... Give them a round of applause. Team Campion College, in any other match, they ended on such a spectacular score that in any other match, they would have won. Their problem was they went up against Wilmer's High School. Yes? Wilmer's Boys School. That was the main issue. Campion College did an excellent job. Wilmer's Boys School ended that match with the highest score that we have given for the competition overall. When I got the scores, I had to say, Jermaine, is there a typo here? Wilmer's Boys School ended on 296 points. That is an astronomical points for that team to end it. For context, the team that came second in that particular round ended on 279 points. So Wilmer's Boys School, excellent, excellent job. And then we had 4. St. Jago High School went up against Herbert Morrison Technical High School. Wilmer's Boys School went up against Titchfield High School. You know how that match went. You're seeing behind me who will be playing for the 3rd place playoffs. Herbert Morrison Technical High School did a valiant debate against St. Jago, but St. Jago managed to get that win. And so Herbert Morrison Technical High School is here today to play off in the 3rd place to see if they can capture that particular title. And in the same vein, Wilmer's Boys School went up against Titchfield High School. And Wilmer's Boys School was successful. Titchfield High School is going to now be playing off for that 3rd place finish. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you on December 10th, Human Rights Day, to welcome the 2 teams to join me on stage who will be playing off in the 3rd place finish. Team Titchfield High School and Team Herbert Morrison Technical High School make your way to the stage. And while they make their way to the stage, I'm not sure if the cameraman can pan over a little bit to my left. Over on my left, you'll see a beautiful array of gift baskets, trophies, medals, and other wonderful items that the teams are playing off for today. I tell you, I say it all the time now, ladies and gentlemen, when I was debating, we never have them nice something here. We never have them. And so once again, I want to thank the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for really just putting on such an awesome event, for bringing us, JADE, on board to ensure that the event is executed to the highest caliber. You know, JADE, let me just, listen, I'm the project manager for JADE, you know, so I have to big up JADE. I have to big up MLCA, I have to big up JADE. JADE has within its resources a list of the greatest adjudicators in the island. Yes, this is what we do. And I know that the panel that we have put together today consists of no less than the top tier. There are several A-ranked adjudicators waiting to get this debate underway. So teams, even as you're a little bit nervous, even as you're ready, be assured that you are in the best of hands. The Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs cares about you, JADE cares about you, and you can take confidence that the decision that is going to be made today is indeed the right one. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the panel that will be debating this match. Yes, the panel of adjudicators. You'd have seen these individuals at various times throughout the competition. And you will see that several of these adjudicators who would have chaired previous matches will be on your panel. Yes? So, for this 3rd place match, we'll be having myself, Robin Thomas Matthews, who will be serving as the chair judge. And I will be joined by Miss Calicia Vassell and Mr. Javan Downey. I invite my judges to take their seat. Ladies and gentlemen, for the 3rd place playoffs, in proposition, we have the team. You ready? Are you ready? In proposition, we have the team Herbert Morrison Technical High School. And in opposition, yes, give them a round of applause, absolutely. And in opposition, we have the team Titchfield High School. And they will be debating the motion. This House supports minimum quotas for the Jamaican cabinet. Ladies and gentlemen, I will take my seat. The next voice you hear will be from the first speaker from the opening team. Thank you very much.
Honorable adjudicators, distinguished guests, and worthy opponents. This House would impose a minimum quota for women in the Jamaican Parliament. Imagine how Jamaica, where every young girl sees herself reflected in the highest echelons of leadership, where potential is not constrained by gender, but liberated by opportunity. Today we stand at a critical crossroads, a moment to transform our democratic promise from an abstract idea to a lived reality through the minimum quota for women in the Jamaican cabinet. Our motion is not merely a policy proposal. It is a bold reimagining of governance, a strategic intervention to correct centuries of systematic exclusion and a pathway to a more responsive, representative leadership that serves all Jamaicans. We define impose as the principled institution of a transformative policy. A minimum quota means allocating at least 30% of cabinet positions to women, a threshold aligned with Jamaica's national policy for gender equality and international practices in inclusive governance. Despite establishing this quota in the year 2000, Jamaica has struggled greatly with its implementation. After 24 years, the country has only achieved 29% representation, falling short of even the minimum threshold and underscoring the critical need for rigorous enforcement. Our second speaker will illuminate how this motion aligns with Jamaica's international commitments to gender equality, demonstrating how increased female representation drives social and economic development. Our third speaker will synthesize our arguments, systematically dismantle the opposition's potential counter-arguments. The narrative of women's political participation in Jamaica is a story of persistent marginalization. Since the introduction of universal adult suffrage in 1944, our political landscape has been a testament to gender inequality. Between 1944 and 1962, just one woman stood among 32 men in Parliament, a solitary voice in a sea of male dominance. By 1989, a mere 5% of MPs were women, 3 out of 60 representatives. Even after introducing the 30% gender quota in 2000, it took until 2020 for women to constitute 29% of Parliament. We have failed to reach the bare minimum. The quota helps to maintain consciousness towards women who show interest in politics. Mr. Speaker, some may argue that imposing a minimum quota risks a decline in the quality of representation. However, this fear is unfounded and far from the truth. Let us consider Sweden, a country where women occupy 47.3% of parliamentary seats. This high level of representation has not diminished in any way the quality of leadership, but instead produced innovative policies, including progressive parental leave and universal childcare policies. Closer to home, Jamaica boasts a deep pool of highly educated and capable women who are more than ready to take up the mantle of leadership. According to data from the Planning Institute of Jamaica, women now outpace men in tertiary education enrollment. This wealth of talent ensures that a quota will elevate, not undermine, the quality of our governance. The notion that women are inherently less qualified to lead is a relic of the past. It is time to ensure that they are given equal access to leadership opportunities. These aren't just statistics. It represents generations of women overlooked, silenced, and suppressed in their leadership potential. Men have historically dominated decision-making on critical issues, such as maternity leave, equal pay, and domestic violence policies, that fundamentally shape women's lives. This reflects a deeply entrenched patriarchal system that perpetuates inequality. A minimum quota is not a concession, but a correction. A correction and a deliberate mechanism to dismantle historical barriers and create genuine representational democracy. Mr. Speaker, this motion is fundamentally about affirmative action, a proven and necessary approach to correcting historical injustices. Let us remember, before 1944, women in Jamaica were not even allowed to vote, much less to hold political office. Despite this, the fight for equality has been long and arduous, with milestones like the introduction of the gender quota being crucial steps forward. However, even with this policy in place, it's been 20 years and we have just reached the bare minimum. Affirmative action is not in any way about preferential treatment. It's about leveling the playing field in a system that has historically marginalized women. This policy recognizes the entrenched barriers that have prevented women from achieving equitable representation and takes decisive steps to dismantle them. By imposing this quota, we acknowledge that talent and potential are distributed equally across genders, but opportunities have not been. This measure ensures that women are no longer systematically excluded from the decision-making processes that shape our nation's future. Through youth parliament programs specifically targeting women, targeted scholarships in political sciences and public administration, and leadership development programs in schools and universities, we can increase the rate at which women enter into political fields. Through also mandated internal party quotas for female candidate nominations, and highlighting the unique value of diverse female perspectives in governance. Implementing gender sensitization training in political institutions, and creating supportive environments that recognize and nurture a woman's leadership potential. Through also mentorship networks connecting inexperienced, young, emerging female leaders with their more experienced elder counterparts, and fostering partnerships with civil societies, NGOs, and corporate sponsors. We can create the platform for leadership skill and development and networking. This comprehensive strategy addresses recruitment, support, institutional change, and cultural transformation to systematically increase women's political representation in Jamaica. Global evidence demonstrates the transformative power of deliberate representation. Emerging from the shadows of genocide, Rwanda implemented a 30% quota and now boasts a 61.3% female parliament. This isn't just a number, once again. It's a revolution in governance, producing groundbreaking policies on gender-based violence, education, and healthcare. Nambia, through its innovative zebra system of alternating male and female representatives, achieved a 46.2% female representation, enabling comprehensive legislation on education, employment, equity, and social welfare. Men and women... Time?
Thank you very much to the first proposition speaker. Teams, you are reminded of your speaking time. The first speaker, you'll have 7 minutes. The second speaker, you will have 6 minutes. And the final speaker, you will have 5 minutes. As you know, the first and last minute of each speech is called protected time, which means that no points of information will be allowed during those periods. Of course, outside of protected time, points of information are not only allowed, they are absolutely welcomed. And teams, you'll be indicated when you're in your first and last minute by the sound of a bell, and that bell sounds like, there you go. All right. So with that said, thank you very much, first speaker from Team Herbert Morrison. We now invite the first speaker from the opposing team, Team Titchfield, to present the case for that side of the house. Hear, hear.
Good evening, members of this honorable house, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, respected opponents, and fellow citizens of Jamaica. I, Zane Buckley, stand before you here today as leader of opposition in great disagreement to the motion. This house would impose a minimum quota for women in the Jamaican cabinet. Truly, without a doubt, this is an intriguing debate that sparks an interest in all. Mr. Speaker, what the motion suggests is that a minimum quota, which refers to the smallest required number or percentage of a particular group or item that must be met or included, should be implemented in the Cabinet of Jamaica. That is the ultimate decision-making body of the executive within the Western Minister system of government in traditional constitutional theory, to ensure only a certain number of women are allocated seats in the cabinet. In today's debate, the opposition leader will come forward with arguments against this policy from a cultural, political, and social aspect, while rebutting government's points. My deputy opposition leader will argue further on my points while coming forward with a few points that addresses the economical aspects of things. My opposition member shall wrap up this debate in favor by arguing against the government's points and further emphasize on our arguments that will back the opposition stance in this debate. Before I begin, the first government speaker had highlighted that representation is important, and through that he highlighted many women who made history through dominating men fields. Women can make change through different forms of empowerment and representation, and the government first speaker agreed to this by highlighting communities that have made that their duty. The government had previously highlighted women who have made history in the field of men, and they are still remembered to this day and are respected by individuals around. And this, Mr. Speaker, has been achievable without the minimum quota. Hence, why not continue to make history where women are respected for being empowered? Mr. Speaker, it is of the opposition knowledge that Jamaica's government is that of a meritocratic government, which is a system where leadership roles, position, and opportunities are awarded based on individuals' ability, talent, and achievement, rather than factors like social class, wealth, connections. And with that being highlighted, the opposition finds this motion to be threatening to the meritocracy that Jamaica has developed. Mr. Speaker, implementing this policy will only prioritize gender over merit, potentially undermining the quality of leadership and fueling public skepticism about women's ability, creating a space for tokenism and wrongful dismissal to the meritocratic system. In the country, Finland, who has successfully implemented this policy and now has a high number of women in the Finnish cabinet, there are occasionally concerns raised by the Finland society that women might be appointed primarily to fulfill gender quotas rather than for their qualifications. This leads to perceptions of tokenism, where women are seen as filling the quota rather than being chosen based on merit, which undermines their authority, their respectiveness in their roles. With that being said, Mr. Speaker, we must consider the reality of Jamaica's society today. Evidently, there are deep-rooted stereotypes that have been taught for generations, and as such, this policy would not promote any form of gender equality and representation. Individuals will only see this as a setback, and this will lead to token appointment where women are seen as only symbolic figures rather than being empowered leaders, and this will reduce their effectiveness and their credibility in their field. So instead of focusing on the numbers in this cabinet, focus on the quality. That should be the primary objective. Quality over quantity. Mr. Speaker, the opposition ponders on whether or not this policy is a necessity to the cabinet. Certainly, we would like to know. We would like to know how this could be beneficial. Naturally, the government would try to paint a picture as if this would ensure gender equality and it should counter gender biases, enhance representation for women, and be a successful example to the other Caribbean countries. But, Mr. Speaker, these are just vain hopes that the government expects with no consideration to Jamaica's society and culture. They decline. Mr. Speaker, the opposition takes careful consideration to the society of Jamaica, and as a result, we firmly believe that this policy would bring forward no change to the traditional values and principles of our country that the government would try to impose. It is common knowledge to all that is born and raised in Jamaica of the gender inequality and the deeply ingrained in social structures, cultural norms, and historical legacies. Women face discrimination in various forms, from economic disparities and limited historical legacies. Women face limited access to leadership positions to gender-based violence and cultural pressures. In an article published by the Planning Institute of Jamaica, highlighted that women are often faced with discrimination and exposed to sexual and domestic violence. In the 2030 Vision for Jamaica, a national development plan has been strategized to counter these many challenges facing women. And while some progress has been made, including more women in education and certain political spheres, meaningful change does not only require legal reform such as this policy. We propose notions that will make impacts and make shifts in societal attitudes towards gender roles and equality. Addressing these inequalities would require more of a holistic approach, focusing on education, legal reforms, and cultural change to empower women and challenge traditional gender norms, starting from in our schools, our communities, and not in our governments. The fall of the Afghan government in 2021 and the return of the Taliban rule erased many gains, highlighting the fragility of progress made through quotas without deeper societal change. And Mr. Speaker, if we don't fix our societal issues, then we shall follow suit in the same direction. Mr. Speaker, while gender quotas aim to address inequality, they may inadvertently undermine democratic policies and principles by limiting voter choice, compromising merit-based competition, and creating a perception of unfairness. Political parties may feel their freedom to select candidates based on their own criteria is constrained by mandatory quotas, and that they have to overlook those who have the talent rather to fill the minimum quota than choosing people who have the talent for it. Mr. Speaker, the opposition wishes for the audience and yourselves to not be fooled. The opposition rests.
And thank you very much to the first opposition speaker. We now swing the debate back over to the second proposition speaker to extend the case for side Herbert Morrison. Hear, hear.
Honorable adjudicators, members of opposition, good morning. The opposition mentioned limited access to leadership positions, but is that not something the quota would enforce so that women are guaranteed representation in the cabinet? Mr. Speaker, it is no secret that women in Jamaica have endured systematic oppression, exploitation, and mistreatment for generations, from being excluded from voting until 1944 to facing restrictive cultural norms that confine them to domestic roles. Women have long been denied equal opportunities in leadership, education, and employment. Today, these disparities remain evident in the persistent underrepresentation of women in political decision-making spaces. Published by the University of Venda, the case study exploring division of labor in the household says that cultural expectations have historically defined women's roles as caregivers and homemakers, confining them to domestic spheres and excluding them from leadership, education, and employment opportunities. This statement signifies the pervasive influence of cultural norms and expectations in shaping gender roles. It highlights how traditional societal structures have historically restricted women's opportunities by confining them to domestic responsibilities. Women in many cultures are required to balance multiple roles, such as caregiving and professional responsibilities. These multitasking abilities make them adaptable and resilient, crucial traits for navigating the complexities and challenges of leadership. Mr. Speaker, we have problems, critical problems that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed with a higher proportion of women at the table. Sexual harassment laws work to provide safe environments and legal recourse for victims of harassment. In Jamaica, 1 in 7 women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical or sexual violence in the past year, based on World Bank and JIS. With women being the dominant victims of sexual violence globally, who is best equipped to provide insights on these global issues? With women in Jamaica being disproportionately represented at the table, additional decisive actions are needed to address the imbalance. Does the underrepresentation of women suggest that men can dismiss their perspectives? Enhanced women's representation ensures that both genders have an equal voice in decision-making processes. Elevated gender equality in politics is a fundamental aspect of creating fair and just societies, where policies reflect the needs and rights of all citizens, not just one group. Women make up 50.55% of Jamaica's population to 49.45% men, according to Statistical Times. Mr. Speaker, for any democracy or government to be truly representative, it must reflect the diversity of its people. Increased women's participation in the cabinet ensures that their perspectives, experiences, and concerns are included in discussions and decisions that affect societies. The government has to sit and make interest, particularly to the women. The House of Parliament will sit and deliberate on decisions like gender violence, reproductive rights, the protection of women from domestic violence, period poverty. Do the men even know? Are most men educated on concerns regarding a woman's body? How can we expect men who do not share these lived realities to fully understand and advocate for the nuanced needs of women? These challenges, where women have lived experiences, which will not only make them valuable, but essential. Who best to speak on the issues of women, Mr. Speaker? A cabinet filled with predominantly men? Albeit the women be the minority, their voices are crucial in decision-making. Decline. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the underperformance of women in cabinet creates a gap in leadership that affects not just women, but society as a whole. However, having a minimum quota guarantees a safe space where women are equally represented. To achieve true democracy and equality, we must ensure that women have an equal seat at the table. Let us take decisive action to break the cycle of marginalization and build a future where every voice is heard and every issue is addressed. The time for change is now. I thank you. The proposition rests temporarily.
And thank you very much. We now invite the second speaker from the opposing team to extend the case for Clyde Titchfield High School. Make her welcome.
Is that okay? Okay. Is my time already started? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, members of the opposition, my fellow teammates, well-wishers, the audience, a pleasant good morning to you all. My name is Abigail Further, and I stand today in front of you without uncertainty to firmly oppose the motion this House would impose a minimum quota for women in the Jamaican cabinet. But before I dive into the meat of the matter, everyone, just like the proposition would have mentioned, that the women deserve a seat at the table, yet there's no certainty or nothing that will say that their discussions, whatever they would have implemented, will be considered. Let that be the forefront of today's argument. Mr. Speaker, we understand the nobility of today's argument. However, there are numerous things to consider beside nobility, such as merit and qualifications, which are deemed more vital than just representation, which should be noted as there are already provisions according to the JIS, which claims that since 2002, the percentage of women who holds parliamentary leadership has risen to 29%. Quotas risk creating perception that appointments are based on gender rather than merit. This perception can lead to a lack of respect for those appointed under the system, undermining their authority and effectiveness. For example, in France, a gender parity law requires equal male and female representation in politics. While it has increased female participation, as they would have mentioned, many women in politics have reported being treated as token leaders, where their ideas are dismissed or overshadowed by the belief that they were choosing for their gender and not their qualifications. In the Caribbean, quotas aimed at increasing gender representation in politics or corporate leaderships have sometimes sparked debates about their merit versus their gender. Similarly, in Trinidad and Tobago, discussions have emerged about merit versus gender. While women hold notable roles, such as Prime Minister Kamala Bissessar's tenure, some argue that implementing quotas for women in parliament or corporate boards might lead to perception that these positions are granted due to gender and not qualifications. On a broader scale, public trust in government could diminish if citizens view quotas as unfair. People may question whether most competent individuals are running the country, especially during these crises. Accepted.
How can you claim that Jamaica is a meritocracy when systematic barriers are in place that have historically prevented women from receiving equal opportunities as men to enter the field of politics?
To answer your question, these systematic borders, I don't think that you guys are looking at it from you guys are looking at it from a utopian point of view, whereas you're saying that we are trying to look into getting these things. And as the JS would have reported that although that we have seen an increase or amelioration improvement as these percentages has grown or risen since 2002.
Another point of information.
Another time. The public wanted to know whether these leaders were chosen for their expertise and ability to handle high-pressure situations, not because they fulfill a numerical requirement, which the quota would have allowed. This erosion of trust harms societal morale and weakens the collaboration necessary for economic recovery and development. Mr. Speaker, quotas might temporarily increase representation, but they do not address the structural barriers that limit women's access to leadership roles. These barriers often start with unequal access to education and professional development. For instance, in developing countries, girls still face limited access to quality education compared to the boys. This gap perpetuates gender inequality in professional fields, creating a pipeline problem where fewer women reach senior positions. A quota may compel governments to appoint women to cabinet positions without addressing the underlying issue, the lack of qualified candidates due to systematic inequality. This is like putting a Band-Aid on a wound and treating it as an infection underneath. Countries like Rwanda, which they would have mentioned, which boast one of their highest percentages of women in parliament due to quotas, still struggle with the broader gender disparities in education and income levels. This focus should be on building capacity through mentorship programs, scholarships, and career development initiatives that empower women to rise to leadership positions rather than getting it because they have to due to the percentages or the numerical value that is set in place. Long-term solutions like implementation in Scandinavian countries provide better outcomes. Sweden, which they would have mentioned, for example, has robust family policies and universal childcare, which allow women to balance careers and family life effectively. As a result, women naturally progress into leadership roles without the need for quotas, demonstrating the value of systematic change over short-term fixes. Quotas additionally might unintentionally shift the focus from addressing critical issues to meeting representation targets declined. For example, in countries, is that time?
No, final.
Okay. In countries facing urgent economic challenges like inflation, unemployment, or debt crisis, forming competent teams should prioritize expertise, experience, and vision over arbitrary demographic criteria. Consider Germany's handling of the 2008 financial crisis under leadership of Angela Merkel. Merkel, who rose to power based on her qualifications, led a team of skilled policymakers who stabilized the economy. Her selection was not based on a gender quota, but on her ability to lead. Had a quota system been in place, it might have pressured leaders to focus on fulfilling gender requirements, potentially sidelining pressing issues like financial recovery. Take into consideration Guyana, where the discovery of oil has brought opportunities and challenges. Building a competent leadership team is essential to effectively manage the country's newfound wealth and economic diversification. If quotas were introduced, I will now yield the floor. Thank you.
And thank you very much to the second opposition speaker. Teams are reminded that you have a 15-second grace period after you hear the double tap of the bell, just to wrap up your last ideas, all right? All right, so with that said, we're going to enter into an exciting period of cross-questioning, cross-examination, yes? And that will see the team in opposition, Titchfield High School, posing questions to Team Herbert Morrison Technical High School. Your questions can last no longer than 20 seconds. Herbert Morrison, you have 45 seconds to answer that question. Only one individual from Titchfield may ask a question at any given point in time. Yes, so a person cannot start a question and then another person on that same team adds to that question. So at any point in time, a question can only be asked by one person. Team Herbert, you have 45 seconds to answer, and that answer can come from the entire team. All right? So, with those expectations set, The time will start when Team Titchfield asks their first question.
Good afternoon. All right, hearing. So could Team Herbert Morrison please state the actual amount that this quota would require?
Okay. So the quota, what we're seeing is that the quota is 30%. 30%.
Are you going next? All right. Are you going next?
Yeah. You previously highlighted empowering women through said quota, but your first government speaker had highlighted that there are societies that make this possible and their goal. And with that being said, wouldn't these said societies have more of an impact than the quota itself?
Hold on, could you repeat that last one? That last part of the question, please?
The question is, with the societies highlighted, wouldn't these societies have more of a greater impact than the said quota itself?
So the societies, I'm not fully understanding the question, but the societies we have listed have in place minimum gender quotas for parliament. And so through that, we are enforcing our point that they have used these quotas to successfully change and improve the quality of their government.
How does the government intend to prevent undermining of these women parliamentarians who were put in place by quota?
So the undermining of the women parliamentarians put in place through this quota is not possible because they have the level of education, they would have the necessary qualifications to be put in that position. We're not talking about getting just any and anybody off the street. Jamaica has a deep pool, as I had stated in my speech, of educated, highly qualified women who are interested in politics. And in my model, I had also explained how we can build the systems and transform the culture of the nation to also encourage more women to go into politics through grants, scholarships, and youth women parliaments.
One of the main pros of the proposition is the increased representation of women in parliament. However, this is increased representation done for the public. How will the public be sure of these women's qualifications? What is preventing the public from claiming tokenism?
Claiming what?
Tokenism.
Claiming tokenism. Is it not the responsibility of a democracy? Right.
You're claiming representation.
So the democratic systems in place and the means by which people are selected to the cabinet, the quality is self-assured. The regulating systems inherent to cabinet ensure that the members of the cabinet are qualified inherently. So I don't believe that tokenism is a valid point in this debate.
How does the government intend to deal with the issue of potential talent overlook where gender is valued, or filling the quota of gender is valued more than putting the best person for the job into that position? Especially considering this cabinet. You can have them in ministry.
We have always believed, and I have stated in my first speaker speech, that women and men are equally talented. But the issue here is that there has been a gap in the opportunities presented to women and men. So what we are doing is we are rectifying the historical inequalities in opportunities between men and women.
All right, hold up. All right, so I had previously highlighted the fall of the Afghan government because they had implemented this quota without fully addressing the societal and cultural issues that they had. And as a result of these issues, it fell down. Considering that Jamaica's society and culture is deeply ingrained in just being against women, would your policy will not fail at the same time? How does that make it different? Is that okay?
Okay, so the Afghan government, their situation is extremely complex and nuanced, but in my belief, what had happened there was that there was a military coup that overthrew their legally elected government. So the government in Afghanistan at this time is not legally recognized. So I don't believe that your point is valid.
All right. And that ends that first segment of cross questioning. And with that, we now flip this arrangement by 180 degrees and ask Herbert Morrison to pose questions to Team Titchfield High School. And your time will begin when you do. Your first question, Herbert?
Okay. So how is it that we can claim to have a meritocratic society when the barriers preventing women from entering into the fields of politics are self-evident in our society, and the systematic discrimination against women in the area of politics is also self-evident? How can we claim to have a meritocracy in this case?
We acknowledge gender inequality, and we do acknowledge that something needs to be done about it. However, we do not believe the quota is an actual impactful fix to it, neither does it actually take away the systematic issues that are in our communities, in our schools, in our homes. It is simply a band-aid.
Women make up approximately half of Jamaica's population. Without quotas, how do you propose achieving balanced gender representation in leadership?
It's about balanced representation. Women are needed in representation. Women are needed in representation. Women have been in parliament as well. Therefore, I believe that women, through other methods such as mentorship, such as the changing of societal views, will put themselves into the situation. A quota is not needed. There was something else I wanted to add and I cannot remember it.
Can you provide examples of countries where women's representation in government significantly increased without a quota system?
As my second speaker had previously stated, Jamaica has increased its women representation since 2002, having a now 29% representation in the Jamaican cabinet.
But Jamaica has a quota in effect from the year 2000.
So then what is the purpose of theirs?
So why Jamaica has the quota in effect since the year 2000, and given that from then until the year 2020, we have only reached 29% of the 30% quota. So how is it that other nations are supposed to achieve this level of progress, given that we have failed to meet our own bare minimum expectation?
All right, answer.
The government is promoting a quota of 30% and also claiming that Jamaica has failed to reach said quota in the first place.
So there no, it's not a, you have to ask a question or a follow-up question.
Repeat, sir?
No, I'm saying you don't respond to the questions. Upon getting an answer, you can ask another question or a follow-up question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
That's to the team asking the
Jamaica's,
questions.
thank you, sir. So sorry. Jamaica's failure to reach the quota, in my eyes, is a clear failure of the quota system. It's the quota policy itself, and clearly we need other systematic issues solved rather than simply putting another quota onto a quota.
Why? Okay. Why do you feel that in Jamaica women are not qualified to deal with women's issues?
At no point did the team opposition claim that women are not qualified. In fact, we have pushed for women being qualified, promoted them, and given examples of women leading.
Do you believe that the Jamaican cabinet should represent the diversity of the population it governs?
Yes, we believe that, but we also believe that these positions should also be based on experience and earned, rather than simply fulfilling a quota.
If we agree that equality is our goal, why delay progress by opposing a proven mechanism such as the quotas?
You would have said that that is a proven mechanism. A quota is definitely not a proven mechanism, as countries such as France, Sweden, and other Caribbean countries have proven that the quotas have failed because women are still undermined and completely their ideas, their thoughts, and during deliberations, they are completely outthrown or not seen as vital as that of the men. So it is not a proven mechanism.
And that is time. Thank you very much. Can you give the team the round of applause? We appreciate very much that exciting period of cross-examination. At this point in time, the debate is going to pause for 2 minutes. That 2 minutes is so that the reply speeches can be completely finished, after which we will have the opposition reply speaker, followed by the proposition reply speaker. That 2-minute break starts now. right, and we are back. We are now going to engage in those reply speeches. And so we ask for the opposition reply speaker to come forward and to conclude the debate for Team Titchfield High School.
I will now begin. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and adjudicators, respected members of the proposition, and my distinguished team members, a pleasant good morning to you all. Today, I stand before you as third speaker of Team Opposition in firm disagreement to the motion this House would impose a minimum quota for women in the Jamaican cabinet. Mr. Speaker, we are approaching the conclusion of this debate, and both sides have presented their argument to the best of their abilities. It is therefore now my responsibility as my team's final speaker to summarize this debate and assure you of the opposition's resounding victory. Let me first emphasize, Mr. Speaker, that we, the opposition, do not oppose gender equality, nor do we claim that gender equality to be a thing of the past. No, Mr. Speaker, we are very much aware of this issue. It is rather that we are asking for actual, impactful change, not just band-aid policies and noble notions. Mr. Speaker, first proposition speaker said, imagine a Jamaica where every young girl can see themselves reflected in leaders of Jamaica. Now, Mr. Speaker, I invite you to imagine that these young girls next hear from the adults around them is quota make she reach there. So does this admiration remain, Mr. Speaker? We, the opposition, think not. Mr. Speaker, we are given statistics about the abilities of women, and we, the opposition, do not disagree with this. Rather, we promote more so, arguably more so than the proposition, as to believe in the abilities of women. I have seen women who have, with their own power, climbed the political ladder, as my first and second speaker would have given examples for. Mr. Speaker, the first proposition promotes a policy that not only incorporates a course about mentorship and sensitization and seminars, and to this, Mr. Speaker, we, the opposition, question the necessity of the quota, the actual topic of this debate, that almost gets lost in the sea of bolstering. Mr. Speaker, a policy which needs this much bolster clearly lacks the ground to stand on its own. Mr. Speaker, second speaker proposition had claimed women are needed to be in parliament to allow for accurate voice and representation of women issues. But Mr. Speaker, what are the guarantees that these women will not still be undermined, especially with the view of tokenism? Mr. Speaker, my first opposition speaker would have stated that Jamaica is a meritocratic system, and such a policy not only undermines the system, but also promotes tokenism and props up women as symbols with empty authority for the government to parade around as false proof of their advancement. It causes talent overlook and distracts from the actual systematic issue. Mr. Speaker, we, the opposition, promote quality over quantity. My second opposition speaker would have stated how it increases gender inequality, as women in power will constantly be questioned of whether she is rightfully earned that power or rather was simply given it in order to satisfy a quota. Mr. Speaker, they claim a 30% is needed by Jamaica, not 30% quota. Has Jamaica not basically attain this with our current 29%? So what reason does the government need for this quota? First proposition gave the point that Sweden, which our second speaker highlighted that Sweden has implemented other policies that curb systematic issues. Mr. Speaker, correlation does not equate to causation. It was mentioned that Jamaica already had a quota, which it failed to meet. So then, Mr. Speaker, why is the proposition proposing an already failed policy? Mr. Speaker, they claim to offer women a seat at the table, but what is the point of gaining a seat if you cannot eat? What is the point of having a voice if you cannot be heard? Mr. Speaker, ultimately this debate comes down to an argument of the proposition's alleged strengthening of gender equality versus opposition's acknowledgement of Jamaica's current political and social realities. Mr. Speaker, what Team Proposition has proposed so far is unrealistic and rather unnecessary, considering the admirable level of women involvement in modern-day Jamaican government. Mr. Speaker, it is clear to see that arguments of Team Proposition are sorely lacking in sufficient forethought, and it is for this reason and many more, as previously listed, that we, the opposition, have and will continue to disagree with today's motion. With that, I now yield the floor.
Thank you very much. And to conclude this debate, we invite the final speaker to reply from Herbert Morrison Technical High School.
Oh my. Right. Okay. All right, so to get into my reply speech, right, I have a lot of qualms with the opposition's presentations. Now, first and foremost, they mention about the quota, oh yeah, it's failed. But let's draw our attention to the recent statistics, right? So we're looking at, right, the quota was implemented in 2000, right? We were seeing before the quota was implemented, when we're in the single digits, right? You see 1 woman, 2 women, 5, 7, 8. That's all dandy and great. But what we're seeing is that after we implemented a 30% quota, we're seeing that we're reaching the double digits, 12, 18, 29. So what is it doing? It's obviously promoting more women in cabinet. Also, if I am to address the point whereby meritocracy, never once did we say that, women, in this sense, are less capable, less qualified than men. No, we have never, that is not what we are saying, right? Meritocracy in Jamaica is contingent on the patriarchal doctrine within Jamaica, and that is what both my speakers have been propagating. This is not that. That is not what we have been propagating. So to just give you an overview of the debate, right? The previous speakers have outlined the importance of women's representation in government, and we have told you how and why these things are a necessity within Jamaican society. We have told you that it has been a historical lack of representation within the Jamaican cabinet. So let me just go back to the numbers, right? We see 1 woman from 1944 to 1962 compared to 32 and 45 men. And we're seeing 2 women from 1967 to 1972, 5 women in 1976, 7 women in 1980, 9 women in 1983, dropped down to 3 in 1989, 7. You're getting the idea. We're seeing here, and it was during these time periods before the quota that Jamaica had a lot of issues with inequality. Now, let's go to, give me a second. Right, let's look at the acts that have been put in place by the men. Men have been making decisions on women's ideals such as maternity leave, 2 months, recently amended in 2023 to 3 months under the influence of women, mind you. Equal pay, the Equal Pay Act of 1975, which is late. So that means that before it was not mandated by the Constitution that women should receive equal pay. Domestic Violence Act of 1996, which is late, and the Sexual Offences Act of 2009, which is even more late, right? So contrasting these late institutions, when universal adult suffrage was granted in 1944, this was the year the first woman, Iris Collins, was elected to Parliament, and the second woman, Rosée Leon, to be the first woman cabinet member in 1953. And what did they put her under? What did they put her under? Minister of Health and Social Welfare, because they understood that these issues need to be addressed. Women have an affinity for issues regarding social health care, social welfare, health, all of these things. So what we're propagating, right? Jamaica is, in essence, a let me fill out the full name: representative, parliamentary, democratic, constitutional monarchy. And what does representation mean? Obviously, the different quote-unquote minorities need to be represented within the Jamaican government. And what we're saying is that what this quota does, it ensures that women are represented within the Jamaican government. That's what we're saying. And even if we go back to Sweden, whilst there is no institutionalized or government with the quotas, the parties within power have the quotas, right? So Sweden, the leading party right now, 40% quota should be women, right? So that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, is that the quota propagates these sort of things. So to continue the things that we have told you. We told you about the 1944 thing, and we have also told you that significant gender-based violence in Jamaica is whereby 1 in 4 women in Jamaica have experienced intimate partner violence. Jamaica has one of the highest rates of rape in the world. 1 in 7 women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical or sexual violence in the past year. And who was it that rectified these policies? Who was it that pushed for these policies? Women in Parliament, but even more so, women in cabinet. Not men, but women. So we have told you about human trafficking. We have told you that women need to be represented in Parliament, in cabinet, because women, right? And let me just bring it to a study. What we're seeing here is from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. Males are 49.45% of the population. So then, if you think about that, time, 1 minute, okay. When you think about that, who is the
15 seconds
majority?
remaining.
Who is the majority? It is women who are the majority, and we are saying that women need to be represented. If in cabinet, even if you talk about these community initiatives, it is essential that you have a woman in cabinet.
And that is time. Thank you very much for concluding this debate, riveting debate. The judges have some work to do. The judges indeed have some work to do. Thank you. Can we give both teams another round of applause? So at this time, the judges will now excuse themselves to go and deliberate. And while we're doing that, we're going to be moving right ahead into the grand finals of this competition.
Welcome to the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. I am Xavier McFarlane. We're celebrating International Human Rights Day under the theme, Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now. Coming to address us today is the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Ford, the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
Please do not expect a voice like that from me. Happy International Human Rights Day. Mr. Wayne O. Robertson, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Ambassador Sheila Seeley-Monteith, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Is Ambassador Stone Roof here? Represented, or the representative of Ambassador Stone Roof? Mr. Michael Morgan, Chief Technical Director. I am not seeing Mr. Herbert Mackenzie, not here. Dr. Richard Amenya, the UNAIDS Multi-Country Director. There are other distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience. We have the Executive Director of Jamaican for Justice. We have the almost Dr. Why don't I pause and just say, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students, good afternoon. So on this afternoon, when we are celebrating International Human Rights Day, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the grand finals of the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition. This competition is hosted by the ministry that I have the privilege to lead, the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and it is being done in collaboration with the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment Limited, JADE. To the distinguished judges from JADE who have been rigorous in their deliberations to choose the debate competitors and the winners, I want to especially acknowledge you. Where is the debating panel? The judges panel. I see. Interesting. All right. My own ministry team and the JADE team who have worked collaboratively to organize the competition and whose perseverance have enabled the debate competition to be held. All attendees, those who are here in person and those who may be watching virtually. I want to also especially thank the teachers, the students themselves, and the supporters who have made this event such a vibrant celebration of ideas. When I was in high school, I was a debater, and I remember how the adrenaline would pump when competitions are being held. And you're just raring to go to test the arguments and to demonstrate that you have the better ideas. So special recognition to all who have helped in preparing the debaters. As I said at the start, today is International Human Rights Day, and we here in Jamaica at the Ministry are united in our shared commitment to human rights. As you know, December 10 marks the 76th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Today, December 10. This was a milestone document. It was the first of its kind that called for universal protection of human rights that would transcend borders, cultures, and ideologies. The Human Rights Declaration document has since inspired over 70 international treaties, proving that human rights are not privileges, but that they are inherent to who we are as human beings. They anchor our personhood and our dignity. My ministry proudly celebrates this occasion with the United Nations. The theme for this year, Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now, resonates deeply here in Jamaica, where we have a rich history of perseverance and progress. Our national leaders, including our founding fathers, Sir Alexander Bustamante and Norman Manley, played an instrumental role in making our Constitution, our supreme law, which came into effect at independence on August 6, 1962. And this was after over 300 years of colonial rule. We have forged a path towards self-determination and freedom as a testament to their vision. And I'm pleased to say that something special will happen in the Parliament today, because the bill to transition Jamaica to a republic will be tabled. In the phased reform work that we have embarked on, phase one has national goals that were set a long time ago, longer than every student present here was born. We will put the supreme law of the land in proper form. We are patriating it, taking off the imperial cloak of the Order in Council. And we're also beginning the process of Jamaicanizing it. When the bill becomes public later on in the day, you will see the introduction of a preamble in poetic and resonant form. You will see the inclusion of national items, including the national emblems and others. And when passed into law, we will succeed in having Jamaica headed by a Jamaican, reflecting our national identity. But of course, you know, nothing good or worthwhile comes without challenges. So we see what challenges we will have to overcome. The journey to refine our national identity through constitutional reform has been in progress for a long time now. In 2011, we achieved a key milestone with the replacement of Chapter 3 of the Constitution by the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, strengthening in a historic way the protection of all Jamaicans and all persons in Jamaica. And we're really moving forward, because every step forward is progress. And so when this Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs was established in 2022, we were given the responsibility to lead the government of Jamaica's legislative and constitutional reform efforts. All our aspirations, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, we can't do it all at once. And so when we set national goals that we are agreed on, we must find what it takes to achieve them and move forward. We really shouldn't say, unless we do it all at once, we will not go forward. We must make the progress while we can make the progress. Gain further confidence and go forward. So as we celebrate International Human Rights Day, and as the eager debaters look forward to charging with their arguments, I am experiencing unprecedented joy for the future of Jamaica. Because there is a link between the work to have a Jamaican as our head of state. In order to do that, we will have to say goodbye to the hereditary English monarch. And the presence of the British Crown in Jamaica is mixed with a history of colonialism and slavery, where rights were not honored. And so we cannot take for granted what we are celebrating today. There was a time when the black man was viewed as chattel. But today we celebrate all as our equal in the sight of God and ought be viewed equally in the sight of man. So do not take for granted the progress we have made in this little nation. You know, let me say, we're little but we tall. So the work of protecting and preserving human rights and freedoms is not to be taken lightly at all when you look on Jamaica's past. When all phases of the reform work is complete, we will emerge with a brand new constitution, keeping what has worked well for us and making changes where changes are required in our best interest as a nation. So stay tuned for what is to come. Your voice, your views matter. And as young people, you really are going to be carrying the nation going forward, because all of us comes with an expiry date, you know? And while age is not a determinant, we know that in the natural order of things, the older give way to the younger. So as some fade away, others bloom and come into full light. So this is where young people, like those of you who have participated and continue to participate in the debate, play an essential role. Through platforms like this debate competition, you are developing the critical thinking and advocacy skills needed to reason out, not just argue out, to concede and respect the perspective of others, and in so doing, help in the exercise of leadership in this nation. So as we observe International Human Rights Day, let us recommit to building a Jamaican where dignity, freedom, and justice are not just aspirations, but that they are our everyday experiences. The world is watching. They're always watching Jamaica. And so future generations will remember how we respond to this moment as we make forward stride in creating a Jamaica and contributing to a world. It is my hope that it will be one where everyone's rights will be upheld and respected, everyone's voice will be valued, and every future will be bright. So I will stay as long as I can to hear a little of the debate, but I have other matters that I have to attend to in our collective interest. So best wishes to the debaters, and to everyone who has contributed. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Minister. Our future, our rights, right now. Ladies and gentlemen, right now is time for our grand finals match. Are you ready? Yes, yes. This match will be contested between two schools, St. Jago High School and the Woolmer's Boys School. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 schools participated in this debating competition, and we're down to 2. So now is the time to hear from the students who are on these teams. They'll be introducing themselves and their speaker positions, starting with side government.
My name is Safia O'Mealy, and I will be serving as first proposition speaker.
My name is Jana Tomlinson, and I will be serving as the second proposition speaker.
My name is Kiona Cunningham, and I will be the reply speaker for the proposition.
Side opposition?
Yes, my name is Apollos Joyles, and I will be the opposition leader.
I'm Kyle Kamika, and I'll be serving as the second opposition speaker.
I am Josh Nelpole, and I will be serving as the reply speaker for the opposition.
Thank you, speakers. In this intellectual battle, the teams will be debating the motion. This House believes that parents should be held criminally liable for not addressing a pattern of deviant behavior that results in criminal offenses. I'll now be handing over to the chief adjudicator for this match, Mr. Jermaine Barrett from JADE.
Thank you very much, Xavier McFarlane, our very competent moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a grand finals match in the MLCA Human Rights High Schools Debate Competition 2024. You would have heard the names of the two teams gathered to face off in this match. We have St. Jago High School as a proposing team and Woolmer's Boys School in opposition. On the panel here with me today, in fact, I'll allow you to I'll allow each of them to introduce themselves so that you can hear their voices. To my immediate left.
Good morning or afternoon. My name is Ivan Godfrey. I'm a legal education officer at the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
Hi, afternoon everyone. I'm Sonique Martin. I'm in the Special Projects Department of JADE.
Good afternoon everyone. My name is Joshua Atkins. I am in the Programs Department in JADE.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Shavar Campbell and I'm in the Communications and Technology Department of JADE.
All right, and for those of you who may be uncertain as to who I am, I'm Jermaine Barrett, of course. All right, that has said multiple times. All right, so our teams are ready. They know the rules, so we will get started. At this time, I call upon the Honorable Prime Minister from St. Jago High School to open the debate. Hear, hear.
This House believes parents of minors should be held criminally liable for not addressing a pattern of deviant behavior that results in criminal offenses. To ensure clarity, let us define the key terms in this motion. The term criminally liable refers to being legally responsible for a crime. Simply put, when someone is criminally liable, they are a criminal. Importantly, criminal liability may arise from an actual act or failure to act. Hence the phrase, ignorance of the law is no excuse. A criminal offense, then, is an action, whether intentional or unintentional, prohibited by law and punishable by the state, and are seen as crimes against the entire state, not just things that affect one or two individuals. These kinds of offenses are ranging from misdemeanors such as petty theft to serious felonies such as robbery or murder.
So when we talk about children committing crimes, we're referring to very serious behaviors and actions that have far-reaching consequences and impacts to the stability of Jamaica. A pattern of deviant behavior is a consistent series of actions that violate social norms or laws. Unlike isolated incidents, this pattern signifies habitual wrongdoing. So then, in this match, we are talking about cases where, 1, there are children who have a habit of wrongdoing or display very odd behaviors that normally raises concerns about their mental state and how they would relate to other people in society. And then 2, parents who turn a blind eye to those concerning behaviors do not take action to curb or provide support to correcting these issues, or simply leave it up to systems like schools to properly parent the child of concern. As a result, following the parent's negligence, the concerns we mentioned in point 1 actually result in the child committing a crime in society. Having established this context, we affirm that negligent parents of routinely unruly children are criminals. I will show you that parents or guardians bear a legal responsibility for all of their children's behaviors under a social contract. The second speaker will use the law of syllogism to prove and justify that negligent parents are criminally responsible for the criminal actions of their children. We will both, to some extent, show how the resolution fosters a culture of responsible parenting. The third speaker will show the superiority of our case in contrast to the opposition's. To win, the opposition must prove that holding negligent parents criminally liable is unjust or inappropriate. They must also suggest an alternative means of securing justice for victims if minors and their negligent parents, as they are under current laws, are exempt from criminal accountability. Declined. In order to win, we will establish and prove a syllogism that justifies why it is logical and natural for parents to be charged as criminals for crimes they did not directly commit. Under the principle of a social contract theory, parents by virtue of their status in society bear the ultimate responsibility for nurturing their children into rational, moral individuals who can coexist peacefully in society. Philosophers like Immanuel Kant emphasize that parental responsibility in shaping children's moral character and teaching them to respect moral law is crucial. Child development psychology reinforces this view, as minors under 18 are generally too immature to make rational decisions independently. When minors fail to meet ethical and social standards, responsibility falls on the parents, who are the beginning of their understanding of right and wrong. Children live what they learn is a phrase that explains the idea that as children listen to and observe their parents, they later embody the lifestyle, good or bad, and then model it. The only incorrect idea are fixed is if there's some opposite stimulus, such as the parents always acting appropriately in front of the child or actively correcting the child when they deviate from the standard.
Point of information.
Accepted.
Is it that you're saying that these are the only ways that children can adopt these negative tendencies?
No, we're not saying that. We're saying that negligent parents should be held accountable when their child commits crimes. Allowing consistent deviant behavior, they breach the social contract. The parental responsibility is not new. For example, the education of a child is universally recognized as the parent's responsibility. If a child aged 4 or older is not enrolled in school, does not attend school consistently, or skip school, it is the parent who is expected to find ways to both enroll and ensure that the child enters in school. When a child underperforms academically, schools contact parents, reinforcing their obligation to monitor progress and take corrective action. In fact, academic reports are never given to children. A parent at all stages of schooling for minors is required to be present on consultation day. Likewise, when children engage in deviant acts like bullying, gambling, or vaping, schools and authorities always contact parents because the responsibility for rectifying the behavior ultimately rests with them. Schools merely manage exposure to other members of the institution, but it is the expectation that the parents will implement strategies to curb the behavior. What is strange, however, is that society has no problem accepting parental responsibility for everything a child does, except when the child does the greatest kind of harm they can through criminality. Parental negligence literally disrupts the balance of society, allowing unruly and harmful behaviors to exist and persist in it. This is a breach of the social contract established to create harmony in society. The remedy is for the government to hold the breacher accountable. And so, in as much of the source of the breach is perceived to be the parent, then holding negligent parents criminally liable satisfies the need for accountability under the contract.
Point of information.
Declined. The resolution fixes another problem. UNICEF advocates that minors should not be held to the same legal standards as adults due to their age and lack of full rational capacity. When minors commit crimes, society does not penalize them as it would adults. In other words, a crime warranting 15 years gets punishable sometimes by 5 years simply because the offender is a minor. If minors are exempt from full accountability, who then is responsible for the harm they cause? This is a legislative dilemma because the core aspect of law is that the justice must be served by holding someone fully accountable for the crime. Judges, it is necessary to go as far as making negligent parents criminals because the actions their breach of the social contract has resulted in is literally a crime against the people of Jamaica. And the requirement of any law is that the punishment must be befitting the crime.
Point of information.
Declined when parents, by their negligence, inspire a life of deviance in children, especially during teenage years, it is difficult to correct their mentality later on. The parents essentially bred and released into society psychopaths and sociopaths who wreak havoc on other people, committing murders, becoming gang leaders, and notorious rapists. The only kind of justice that is befitting the crime of creating criminals is punishing the creators as criminals. Investigation into juvenile crimes continues to reveal miswarning signs from patterns of bullying to access to weapons. This negligence often paves the way for criminal acts. The satisfaction, then, to the legal dilemma is that parents must be brought to the book. Negligent parenting directly contributes to juvenile delinquency, creating harm for both the child and society. If the opposition denies parental responsibility, they must be able to identify who gets the title of criminal. For the crimes committed since in the status quo, neither the parent, in most cases, the child does. By virtue of parents being bound by social contract theory that they're responsible for all pertaining to their child, given the law requires full accountability for and that matches the nature of crimes committed, and since minors cannot be wholly responsible for their actions, we assert that it is fair and justified to charge negligent parents as criminals when their children commit crimes. Thank you.
We thank the Honorable Prime Minister for her speech. We now call upon the leader of the opposition from Wolmer's Boys School to present their case. Hear, hear.
I shall begin in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed adjudicators, worthy opponents, and of course my fellow debaters. Today we stand firmly in opposition to the motion this House believes that parents of minors should be held criminally liable for not addressing a pattern of deviant behavior that results in criminal offenses. And so to start off, we'd like to define the key terms in this debate, which the proposition failed to do, or rather to redefine certain definitions put forward by the proposition. Firstly, parents of minors, legal guardians of individuals under 18 who bear primary responsibilities for upbringing but are not absolute determinants of outcomes. Secondly, a pattern of deviant behavior. This refers to repeated actions deviating from social norms, suggestive of escalating tendencies toward criminality. The proposition's model implies that parents should bear punitive consequences for failing to address behavioral issues that result in their children committing crimes. Before I go any further, allow me to rebut some of the points made by the proposition thus far. They mentioned the whole point about accountability. However, accountability is a concept that must align with control. It's just common sense that parents cannot control every aspect of a child's life. True accountability lies in addressing systemic issues like underfunded schools, insufficient mental health services, and the criminal justice system's failure to rehabilitate youth, not accepted, rehabilitate youth effectively. And so to criminalize them for circumstances beyond their control is not only unjust but also counterproductive. Under our counter policy, it focuses on a proactive and equitable intervention to address the root causes of juvenile delinquency. Schools and community clinics will conduct annual behavioral screenings starting at age 5 to identify at-risk children early. These screenings will be brief, non-invasive, and followed by referrals to specialized counseling or therapy for those in need, ensuring that resources are allocated efficiently. To eliminate financial barriers, therapy and counseling will be subsidized, and the community-based parenting workshops will take place to sort of provide parents with strategies to address behavioral challenges. The school will also play a central role in integrating mental health professionals, training teachers to recognize early signs of deviant behavior, and incentivizing parental participation through tax credits or fee reductions. Legal action will only be considered not accepted as a last resort for parents who repeatedly refuse to engage with support systems after multiple outreach efforts, prioritizing, of course, collaboration over punishment. As your opposition leader, I will establish 2 key arguments. Firstly, criminalizing parental inaction destroys proportionality in the justice system, and secondly, the motion exacerbates the very cycles of harm and crime it seeks to address. My deputy, on the other hand, will build on this foundation, dealing with the fact that it overlooks the fundamental problem in society, and that the world the proposition proposes has negative consequences for all actors involved. I shall now move into my first substantive, which falls under the claim that the motion undermines a cornerstone of justice, that being proportionality between justice, or rather responsibility, and punishment. The justice system is built on the principle of individual accountability. Crimes are acts of volition, where responsibility rests on the perpetrator's intent and actions. By criminalizing parents for their children's offenses, this motion dismantles that foundational principle.
Point of information.
Accepted.
we're not saying that the child will not take accountability. We're saying, according to UNICEF, they said that children are...
No, because in your first speaker's speech, you mentioned that you want to penalize parents for criminal actions taken by the child. However, a child's behavior, as most of us can agree, is rarely a straightforward result of parental action or inaction. Children develop agency, make choices, and are influenced by factors like peers, schools, and societal pressures. Treating a parent's perceived failure to intervene as criminal punishes individuals for outcomes largely beyond their direct control. Consider the example of the 1999 Columbine High School shooters incident. Eric Harris and Dylan Kleboyd came from stable, loving families with no signs of neglect or abuse. Before their descent into planning and executing one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history, both boys engaged in criminal activities such as theft and vandalism, and exhibiting alarming behavior, including maintaining violent blogs and creating disturbing media. Their parents actively intervened by ensuring their completed court-mandated diversion programs, demonstrating their involvement. Despite these efforts, though, external triggers like exposure to violent media, toxic online forums, and peer influences continue to shape the boys' behavior. Holding their parents criminally liable for such behavior would be unjust, as the deviance rose from factors beyond parental control. And even so, the parents did in fact attempt to intervene. This highlights the proposition's flawed logic in blaming parents despite their efforts. According to the National Institute of Justice, 80% of juvenile offenders cite peer pressure or environmental factors as the primary influences on their behavior. Additionally, a trial trend study reveals that only 37% of delinquent minors report consistent neglect or abuse at home. These statistics prove that parental influence is significant, yes, but far from deterministic. The impact? When proportionality in justice is violated, the system loses its legitimacy. Parents are unfairly scapegoated, fostering resentment and eroding trust in institutions.
Point of information.
Not accepted. Vulnerable families, particularly those in marginalized communities, are disproportionately targeted, perpetuating systemic inequalities and, of course, a cycle of injustice. This takes me to my second substantive that falls under the topic of, instead of reducing crime, this motion actually destabilizes families, amplifying the harm it seeks to address. Families are the first in line of defense in rehabilitating at-risk youth. Criminalizing parents disrupts this critical support system. If a parent is prosecuted, the family unit disintegrates. Financial stability collapses when children are left without guidance, and the parent's incarceration becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of delinquency. Consider a single mother working 2 jobs to support her family. Her teenage son begins skipping school and shoplifting under peer pressure. According to the proposition's logic, this mother, who may lack the time or resources to monitor her child constantly, could be criminalized. The result? Her incarceration leaves the family in poverty. Her son enters the foster system, and the likelihood of his reoffending increases. The Urban Institute reports that children of incarcerated parents are 6 times more likely to engage in criminal behavior themselves. On a similar note, the Sentencing Project finds that parental incarceration increases juvenile dropout rates by 23% and the juvenile crime rates by 42%. These figures show that punishing parents exacerbates harm rather than preventing it. The proposition might argue, however, though, that the criminalizing parents provides a mechanism for intervention before behavior actually escalates. However, this ignores the chilling effects such policies create. Fear of prosecution discourages parents from seeking help when struggling with their child's behavior. Families, especially in marginalized communities, will avoid engaging with schools, counselors, or authorities, isolating themselves and denying children the resources needed for rehabilitation. The impact? Children lose trust in the family unit, experience trauma, and face economic hardship. Instead of fostering a supportive society, the motion turns the state into a punitive overseer, creating fear and alienation. This deepens the inequality and worsens crime rates, perpetuating cycles of harm. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, this motion oversimplifies a complex issue today. It's to its very detriment at that. Justice demands fairness, proportionality, and solutions that strengthen the society. We'd like to point out, however, that this motion achieves none of these, and with that, we, the proposition, temporarily rest. Thank you.
We thank the leader of the opposition for that speech, and the debate swings back to the government side. We now make welcome the Deputy Prime Minister, of course, coming to us from St. Jago High School. Hear, hear.
Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and distinguished audience, a pleasant afternoon. First, opposition, while parents are not the absolute determinants of behavioral outcomes in children, in every case, they bear the responsibility to provide guidance and discipline, whether or not it is received. The motion states that the parent in question fails at this. Let me make this clear. We do not believe children bear no accountability for their crimes. We are contending that their parents are also criminally liable for their role in enabling the bad behavior that turned into a crime. Our case is that parents, as the primary custodians of their children, hold the critical responsibility to guide, discipline, and supervise them. As the first speaker argued, when they fail to fulfill this duty in cases where a pattern of deviant behavior is evident, they become complicit in the escalation of that behavior to criminal acts. What I will do now, judges, is to prove an equivalence between the inaction of parents and the action of the children by establishing a clear syllogism. A syllogism is a form of logical reasoning that seeks to come to some rational conclusion about a matter. In today's case, the conclusion is that the negligence of parents is exactly the same as the criminal action of the child. A syllogism requires at least 3 premises, which I will call facts A, B, and C. In short, a syllogism looks like if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. We're able to conclude that A and C are the same because a common fact binds them together, namely fact B. The motion gave us 3 premises, both prop and app must accept. Fact A, that parents are negligent as deduced from the fact that parents do not address. Fact B, that their children are habitually unruly, again properly derived by the first speaker when we consider the phrase pattern of deviant behavior. This is the binding statement I referred to. Fact C, that they commit a crime, as clearly expressed in the latter part of the motion. The first part of the syllogism is that the negligence of the parents, fact A, leads to the habitual deviance of their child, fact B. Behavioral psychologists emphasize that deviant behavior thrives in environments where there is no accountability. Without intervention, minors normalize these actions, emboldened by the absence of consequences. It is at this stage that parental responsibility is most critical. Failure to act not only condones the behavior, but effectively enables it. Dr. Herbert Gale, a Jamaican social anthropologist, has conducted significant research on the correlation between parenting and violence. The Jamaican Observer highlighted, not accepted at the time, key conclusions of his research, including him emphasizing the role of maternal relationships, and I quote, shaping behaviors linking the absence or neglect of nurturing and stable homes to increased aggression and violence in youth. In the US, the FBI has studied patterns among serial killers and found consistent links to childhood neglect, particularly poor maternal relationships. A study led by Agent Robert K. Ressler on 36-year-old murderers revealed that many experienced, and I quote, severe neglect and abusive maternal relationships during their formative years, which affected their capacity for healthy social interactions. There is therefore a causative, not accepted at this time, causative relationship between negligence of parents and bad behavior in minors. Statement 2 in the syllogism is that the pattern of deviance in the children, fact B, leads them to committing criminal actions, fact C. The motion itself begs to assume that this is true, since it says, in cases where it happens. But I will still quickly provide evidence that a repeated pattern of deviant behavior, not accepted, in minors often escalates to criminal activity when left unaddressed. The research by the FBI agent mentioned above underscores that while not all neglected children become violent, those lacking early intervention are at a higher risk of developing deviant and criminal behaviors. In Jamaica, the research by Dr. Gale also found that, and I quote, neglectful parenting can contribute to the development of antisocial tendencies and violent behavior in children, potentially leading to criminal activities as they grow. Therefore, since I've proven the first 2 premises, that parental neglect leads to repeated deviant behavior in children, accepted?
You mentioned, and I'm quoting you word. You mentioned, I'm quoting you word for word, by the way, that parents actually enable a child's criminal acts. However, how does this account for external factors like peer pressure, neighborhood conditions, as I would have mentioned?
What I'm saying is that the cases where unruly behavior is seen and it is evident, as my first speaker would have stated, the school has the responsibility to inform the parents. The parent then neglects this duty by not addressing the situation. So there's a logical and correlative relationship between parental neglect, fact A, and the criminal action of their children, fact C. Therefore, establishing justification for holding parents criminally liable for the sins of the criminals they had developed by their negligence. Here is the impact of all of this. The Jamaica in which we now live is one where a 13-year-old girl is brutally assaulted by 7 boys who are minors. The Jamaica in which you live is one where children are caught in possession of guns in school and other children are being shot as they play with it, not accepted at this time. The Jamaica in which you live is one where there are too numerous to count incidents of students stabbing students to death or ganging and beating up their peers or adults. These incidents, among others, are not isolated, and they are becoming alarmingly frequent. They are indicative of a large-scale social failure to nurture, guide, instill ethics and manners, and to hold children accountable at home. When parents neglect their duty to address a child's deviant behavior, they fail in their role as the first line of defense against criminality. This neglect creates a void which society often fills through law enforcement, courts, and correctional system, resources that could be better utilized elsewhere. Holding parents criminally liable for failing to parent properly reinforces their pre-existing responsibility under the social contract. It also charts a path of deterrence to neglect, encouraging proactive involvement in a child's development. Critics may argue that parents cannot control every action of their children, but we can only sympathize with them in isolated incidents. The motion today addresses patterns of deviant behavior, repeated actions that clearly indicate a problem but go ignored by bad parents who have ample opportunity to identify and intervene before these patterns evolve into criminal offenses. Moreover, this idea does not aim to punish parents indiscriminately. It seeks to hold accountable those who willfully ignore their responsibilities, thereby directly or indirectly contributing to societal harm. This accountability benefits not only the affected families, but society as a whole by reducing the prevalence of juvenile delinquency and crime. In conclusion, this syllogism is clear. Parents are the custodians of their children under the social contract. Deviant behavior unchecked by parents often escalates to criminal activity. Therefore, parental neglect is a root cause that warrants criminal accountability. The motion is not about punishing parents for every minor infraction. It is about holding them responsible when their failure to act allows a pattern of deviant behavior to grow unchecked. By criminally holding parents accountable, we are creating a deterrent to neglect, encouraging proactive parenting, and fostering a culture where children are not left to navigate the complexities of life without guidance. It is also a fact that creating criminals is, in fact, a criminal offense in itself, and therefore they should also be held criminally liable. By affirming this motion, we reinforce the principle that responsibility is not optional. We send a clear message that the upbringing of the next generation is a shared priority, critical to the safety and stability of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Prime Minister. That speech came to you from St. Jago High School, of course. We now go to Woolmer's Boys School to hear from the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Let's make him welcome.
I will begin in 3, 2, 1. I'm second opposition for this House believes that parents of minors should be held criminally liable for not addressing a pattern of deviant behaviors that result in criminal offenses. I'll start with my rebuttals. To start with, the narrative is being framed here that parents are the main safeguard. They're the only persons here that's going to safeguard children from all these external factors that my first speaker mentioned and that we're going to mention as well. The problem with this is that that's simply not the case. They fail to mechanize the reason that these people being safeguards are the only, prevent negligence and these types of things. They also fail to mechanize the fact that those parents being socially responsible are automatically supposed to be criminally charged, even though they already have a social burden. They also didn't address the fact that my first speaker mentioned. Pardon me there. They also failed to address that my first speaker went into the fact that there are negative consequences to the children. What do you do with the children? These actors who are going to be separated from their families and fathers and mothers, I should say, specifically their parents, when they're already having these deviant behavior patterns, what's going to happen about that? That narrative I said is off the bat false. Parents are not only the main safeguard, they can safeguard from all these other external factors. Also, they mentioned this action. The second speaker mentioned this idea, not right now. The second speaker mentioned this idea of social contract. Neglecting parents is, the Jamaica that we live in, that parents there, they're not necessarily doing much right there, that they're supposed to be held punished for those reasons. But realize that this is a multifaceted issue and that we shouldn't blame parents specifically right there. I'm moving to my claims and arguments right now. My first claim is that parents should not be primarily held liable for children's deviant behavior or behavior development. My first warrant is agents of socialization and the fundamental foundational sociology prove that a minor's behavior is an amalgamation of multifaceted actor contributions. There are 5 agents of socialization, ladies and gentlemen: family, school, peers, mass media, and work. Keep in mind, however, that families do not socialize children in a vacuum according to the Roger Williams University. Many social factors affect the way a family raises its children. According to the ecological systems theory, it's believed that a person's development was influenced by everything in the surrounding environment and social interactions within it, according to press books. They mention things like mesosystems, microsystems, exosystems, macrosystems, and chronosystems. These are relationships between family and teachers, but indirect relationships between parental work, not right now, parental work or media, culture and societal factors, and life changes and historical events over time. You cannot blame parents for multifaceted issues according to expert psychology. My next warrant is that these environmental and social factors contribute greatly greatly to a child's development and behavior, and the lack thereof to misbehavior and violence, eventually criminality. The environment in which a child grows up plays a pivotal role in their overall development, according to the Joint Social Work Education Research Conference. Let's look at the neighborhood. In a study of 3,500 children 7 to 12 years old had significantly more serious behavior problems if they lived in neighborhoods that were rated as poor compared to those in excellent neighborhoods, according to Johns Hopkins Public Health University. Let's look at economic situations. Researchers see a direct correlation between the higher level of income inequality and the higher rate of these crimes. There's a direct causality, according to the University of the West Indies. Let's look at violent exposure. Exposure to violence can harm a child's emotional, psychological, and even physical development, acting aggressively, suffer from depression or other mental health problems, and engage in criminal behavior as adults. I go back to that narrative. That narrative is false. There. Not right now. The narrative is false. Parents are not the only ones contributing to the deterioration of behavior. Peers, exposure to deviant behavior peers has been linked to increase in a wide range of delinquent behaviors. Drug use, covert antisocial behavior, violent offenses, and high-risk sexual behavior, according to the National Institute of Health. My last word, parents are not supposed to be the only actors who curb child behavior. Teachers are a key driving force behind our children's development and social development, according to UNESCO. Positive relationships with family members, teachers, and other carers can help children feel safe, supported, and valued. Instead of just criminalizing parents who should be involved in other actors who understand their strife, who understand these infractions, not right now, and understand these deviant behavior patterns and can actually address it, according to Eden Gardens. My impacts are twofold. Deviant behaviors are actually linked to various other multifaceted issues in society. My next impact, parents should not be the only individuals to blame because of criminal behaviors in society. Even if parents play the primary role in the developmental stage of a child under safeguards, which we prove is not completely true, the mechanism you provide, this being criminalizing the inability of parents to curb child behavior, is bound to result in secondary harms that are problematic to our society and parents. This brings me to my next claim and my last claim. This is not the best way of solving the issue of deviant behaviors and crime and violence. To contextualize, all five countries with the lowest crime rates in the world use social development policies as opposed to parental punitive damages. Switzerland, Denmark, Norway, Japan, and New Zealand. Let's go into my first one. Parents resort to corporal punishment to curb child violence. How does blaming parents impact their stress levels? Blaming parents for their struggles leaves them angry, anxious, depressed, and interferes with their ability to think, according to good therapy. Levels of parenting stress was positively associated with physical child abuse potential, and 81% of parents agree that it's appropriate to corporally punish, and 53% of Jamaican women say that they see these things in their households. My next warrant is that parents are unable to identify infractions and behavioral shifts which eventually lead to deviant behavior. Parents and caregivers want the best for their children. They want to see some growth and be happy and healthy and fulfilled adults. That's a fact according to New Direction Mental Health. However, young people may sometimes experience certain events or emotions that can be difficult to navigate independently by parents. A therapist helps your child work through difficult situations, learning coping skills to manage intense feelings, and help families get better. The intervention should not only just be after deviant behaviors, but early intervention, according to Takes Care Family Center, plays a crucial role as well. My next one is social development is the best way of preventing behavioral issues in the very first place. A multi-level study of the EU countries suggests that individuals are happier and psychologically healthier if they live in a more cohesive society, according to a 2016 study. And high levels of social capital and social trust lead to positive social outcomes, including low crime rates. I'll just end with my impacts. Parents are not able to distinguish behavioral problems and trends as compared to guidance counselors and therapists. Parents who resort to corporal punishment and fixing societies through social development is better. Thank you very much. The opposition rests temporarily.
We thank the Deputy Opposition Leader for that speech, and we now enter an exciting segment of our debate, the cross-examination. We will, with 4 minutes on the clock, invite the opposition team, that is Wolmer's Boys School, to pose a series of questions to the government team, St. Jago High School. Please be reminded that a question is limited to 20 seconds and a response limited to 45 seconds. With 4 minutes on the clock, you may begin with your first question, Wolmer's Boys School.
How do you address the fact that all the top 5 lowest crime rates in the entire world were addressed by social development policies and not parental punitive damages?
Please repeat the question.
You hear me now?
Okay, so I was saying that how do you contend with the fact that the top 5 countries with the lowest crime rates in the world use social development policies instead of parental punitive damages, punitive measures, I should say?
So here's what the debate today is about. It is about whether or not parents are responsible for the criminal actions of their children. And so in these countries that you're talking about, these measures would have been implemented reactively as a result of things that they would have seen in their society. In our model, we are advocating for proactive measures for parents to be more accountable and responsible in supervising their children to prevent these deviant behaviors from progressing forward. So that is really what the match is about today.
Okay, am I being heard? You claim to have a model, but really and truly we didn't hear any policy coming forth. So if this whole matter of parents being held responsible or criminally liable, I should say, because that's what the motion dictates, if that is the issue here today, why is it that you have presented nothing to us to address the issue?
I'll restate. We believe that parents should be held criminally responsible for the crimes committed by their children.
There's no policy. That's it? Okay.
No. Please repeat the question.
No, we're saying that you've stated what you believe, but you haven't given us a policy to truly mechanize this. So we're asking you, if it is that you consider that parents really and truly should be held responsible, or let me restate, criminally liable, not civilly, why is it that you haven't given us anything to really mechanize this? Where is it?
We have continuously stated the social contract theory, which states that parents are wholly responsible, and if the parent does not, if the parent...
So what I'm getting from your question is that you're asking for laws that will put in place. But of course, the laws would come after the decision has been made to hold the parents criminally liable. So therefore, there is no need for us to present any form of policies that is not our responsibility. We're contending that the parents have the responsibility and therefore should be held criminally liable.
Okay, so you want to do something without a policy. Cool. So the parental, you're seeing that you're promoting parental accountability. Have you taken into consideration the issues that arise from this, such as helicopter parent syndrome, where parents feel the excessive need to be constantly monitoring their children when they might not be able to, and resort to violent parental methods? Have you considered this, and if so, how do you plan to mitigate it?
Again, I feel like you are misrepresenting our case. Rather, we're not contending that parents should be indiscriminately held responsible. We're saying that negligent parents who willfully ignore the signs, meaning that when the school sends them the letters, sends them the notices to let them know that their child is behaving unruly and it is going unchecked, then they ignore it. What we're contending is that those parents, not all parents, should be held criminally liable.
So, just to confirm, you're assuming that parents will in all cases know, because you gave us an example of the schools to say that, okay, in schools, the schools will let the parents know, but you're assuming that the only place these behaviors are shown forth is within schools. Is that what you're propagating?
So, firstly, socialization begins in the home, and it is impossible for children to be deviant repeatedly, as the motion states, with their parents not being aware. Which is why, in the motion, we are speaking to rather negligent parents that do not address these behaviors. So we're not saying that these behaviors only occur in school and so on and so forth. And we're not talking about isolated incidents. We're talking about a pattern of behavior.
Thank you. Thank you very much to both teams for this segment of the exchange. We continue with segment 2. This time the questions will come from St. Jago High School, posed to Woolmer's Boys School.
How does your position ensure justice for victims of crimes caused by persistent parental neglect if the neglectful parents face no accountability and laws make it difficult to charge minors with crimes?
With what you're propagating, you're ignoring the fact that parents are already held liable, and several times during your speech you say, oh, parental accountability, parental liability. However, the matter is criminality. The parents did not commit the crime. How is it you're going to put them behind bars or slap sentences on them if they are not the ones that complete the action? How is that just? You're undermining the entire merit of our legal system that our ministers have worked so hard to uphold. So why are you trying to tear that down?
Also note that You're also looking at the situation that parents who, not directly responsible for all the behaviors these childs are doing, they're not understand the multifaceted levels of this child's cognitive development. They're supposed to be responsible for actually addressing these issues when they're not actually trained properly to understand them fully.
Okay. If other stakeholders, like teachers, which you conceded second opposition in your speech, if other stakeholders like teachers can be held accountable for negligence if students harm each other in their absence, why should parents be exempt from the same responsibility?
I didn't say that they're exempt. I didn't say they're going to be criminally liable. Absolutely not. I'm saying we're living in a society. Where we would deal with social development, to actually address the issue of deviant behaviors and to address the issues of crime and violence in totality. Social development through actually partnering with other persons like teachers, like therapists, like counselors. My first opposition mentioned this policy to actually curb these deviant behaviors instead of just putting the blame on parents.
If children are heavily influenced by their environment, doesn't it follow that unchecked deviant behavior is largely the product of parental neglect? And if not, then explain what.
Let me reiterate the fact that in my deputy opposition leader's speech, he posited that 44% of deviants are actually influenced by peer pressure. They concede this. And he added to that 15% of these same deviants are burdened by mental health issues. If you can do the math, that makes up the majority.
Our first speaker identified parental responsibility as part of the social contract. Why should society bear the cost of crime prevention and rehabilitation for children when negligent parents who are most capable of intervening remain unaccountable?
It's the right, according to human rights, it's a human rights debate. The community is supposed to help. People are supposed to be held responsible for helping and aiding the development of everyone in our society. It's not a one-person thing. It's not a parent-only type of initiative. For a better society, everyone must be held. Everyone must be held responsible. Everyone must partner. Everyone, children and everyone alike, to have a better development. Everyone should be helping these children develop.
Let me just reiterate that our counter policy actually assures that all factors are considered. You didn't do anything similarly to that, so why should we consider your speech?
I'm glad that you mentioned that the community should be involved. This leads me to my next question. How do you address the societal burden created when parents abandon their responsibilities, leaving schools, courts, and law enforcement to manage their children's deviant behavior, which then turns into crimes?
I'll address that by asking you the same question. How do you address the societal burden that is put on parents when additional legalities are added to their already constrictive social expectations? How do you address when they turn to more violent methods, when they start to beat their children excessively, and that in turn continues to propagate the cycle of crime? How do you address that? You're asking me how do I address it? I ask you the same question.
One final question, please, Sinjigo.
If children are heavily influenced by their environment, does it follow that unchecked...
So given the rise in youth crime, what solutions does your side have to offer to combat the parental neglect that fuels the crisis?
In status quo, we have what we call a child-centered approach. You're looking to put punitive measures on the parents who are not directly correlated to the crimes, might I add. However, our status quo and our additional counter policy ensures that the values are instilled directly to the children so that they can stop the crime. It is not down to the parents because it's not them start doing the crime in the first place. So how is it that you're going to blame and punish somebody for something that they did not do? Again, that goes against legal morality and it goes against the very foundation of our legal system.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the debaters. Wow, that was truly intense. And I'm happy that we're at the point where we can take a 2-minute break. So we'll pause for 2 minutes to allow you to gather your thoughts and put those finishing touches to the reply speeches. On the other side of the 2 minutes, we will resume with the reply speaker from Team Wolmer's Boys School, that's the opposition. And then we will conclude the debate with that from the proposition or government, St. Jago High School. Your 2 minutes begin now. ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to resume our debate. We have two speakers remaining, that speaker from the proposition and the opposition. We're going to be hearing now the reply speaker from the opposition team first, that is Wolmer's Boys School. We'll be speaking for 5 minutes, and then, of course, our debate will conclude with the reply speaker from St. Jago High School. And this time, I invite you to make welcome the opposition reply speaker. Hear, hear.
Am I being heard? All right, I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good day, all protocols observed. Mr. Speaker, the opposition has exposed that the proposition's arguments are dangerous and unjust. By pushing criminal liability, they scapegoat parents for systemic issues such as peer pressure, inequality, and poor mental health support, factors far beyond their parental control. In our counter policy, we focused on early intervention and support to address juvenile delinquency. We spoke about annual behavioral screenings to identify at-risk children, and we subsidize this with therapy and community workshops to provide necessary support, as well as government intervention. My Prime Minister would have posited that the motion undermines a core principle of the judicial system, which is individual accountability. He argued that crimes are intentional acts, and responsibility should rest solely on the perpetrator. Holding parents criminally liable for actions that they did not commit completely erodes this principle. He gave the example of the 1999 school shooters. He mentioned specifically that their parents provided a loving and caring household. Would you deem it fair to penalize these loving and caring parents for the heinous actions of their children that were obviously influenced by external factors? Mr. Speaker, the proposition's argument is a gross oversimplification of a complex issue. They unfairly scapegoat parents for societal failures. Juvenile delinquency stems from a network of influences as posited by my deputy. He spoke about socialization agents such as schools, peer groups, schools, peer groups, media, and governments that are pivotal in shaping behavior, proving that parents are not solely responsible for the actions of their children. UNESCO shows 44% of juvenile delinquents being subject to peer pressure. They also prove that 15% of these persons suffer from mental health issues. We blame the parents, yes, but does this solve the issue? No, it does not. Additionally, we undertook the possibility that parents may face increased pressure due to the added legal responsibilities alongside their social oppression associated with childcare and discipline. As a result, they might seek to adopt harsher or more aggressive methods to maintain their child's behavior. This utterly violates human rights and humanitarian principles. Might I remind us that this is a human rights debate? Let's go into rebuttals now. You posited that criminally liable equals criminal. However, I pose the question, what crime do the parents commit? Why is it that you consider them to be criminals when the children are the ones who commit the crimes? And according to the postulate of law theory that I stated earlier, the perpetrator is the one that should be penalized. Moving on, you spoke about parental impact. However, my opposition leader would have posited that parents are not absolute determinants. Parental impact is not the sole agent of socialization. So why should they bear the sole criminal consequence when they're already persecuted, in a sense, civilly? Negligence is already addressed civilly. The larger issue is the children's behavior, and I feel that is something that our proposition is just undermining. Yes, we understand that you're trying to penalize parents. Okay, whether or not that solves the issue, let's put that aside for a second. However, what are we doing to the child to address the behavior of the child? I don't think they've mentioned the word child in any of their speeches thus far. This is a gross oversimplification of the matter. If you claim that parents must be held accountable, what policy did you mechanize to mitigate the perceived issue of status quo that you believe is there? Where's the policy? I've been asking for this all debate. There is no policy. They promote parental accountability, but they themselves fail to account for the issues that they could inadvertently propagate. Look at the helicopter parent syndrome. would you want your parent to be supervising you 24/7? And even if they could, would that allow them to be able to go out and earn an income and do what they're required to do as a parent? No. Violent parental methods also comes to the fore, and they have failed to propose a way in which they can truly address this. We spoke about societal unrest. If the society is not pleased with what is happening, do you think that they're going to comply with it? Absolutely not. In closing up, we spoke about violence, and let's just say that the proposition mentioned a list of crimes. However, they didn't find it necessary to prove the correlation between parent neglect, okay? They spoke about negligence, and they spoke about negligence being equivalent to a criminal act. However, why is it that we see civil and criminal laws being divided in the courtroom of today? Have they not taken this into consideration? In closing, Mr. Speaker, this is not an issue of accountability. It is an issue of criminal liability, an issue that this proposition has failed to undertake and that this opposition has posited throughout the entire debate. And with that, we will rest our debate and ask that you make the informed decision and support us instead of their fellowship.
All right, quite a dramatic ending there, indeed. Thank you very much, Reply Speaker, representing Wolmer's Boys School, the opposition team. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to bring the curtains down on this exhilarating debate, we now call upon the Reply Speaker from St. Jago High School, representing Team Government. Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, today's debate is about whether or not it is just and appropriate to charge negligent parents for the crimes of their unruly children. Who is truly responsible for the crimes committed by children, and why? By comparing and contrasting both the proposition and opposition's responses to this central issue, I will make clear why our stance is most sound and appropriate. We contend that negligent parents of routinely unruly children are criminals. Negligence is a crime. The second speaker equated this negligence to the commission of the crime by the child. This motion is not about punishing parents for every minor infraction. It is about holding them responsible when their failure to act allows a pattern of deviant behavior to go unchecked and terrorize the rest of society. In status quo, we face an alarming increase in juvenile delinquency and youth-related crime, mentioned by my second speaker. Patterns of deviant behavior in minors, such as bullying and violence, escalate into serious criminal offenses every day. Following the syllogism explained by second prop, we see where parental negligence plays a causal role in minors committing crimes. When acts are taken against the state, justice must be served. Children under the law cannot take full responsibility for their actions. So naturally, it is the parents who have full responsibility for them in every other aspect of their life who should bear criminal liability, though they themselves did not commit the crime. Charging neglectful parents for the crimes of their children sends a message that the justice system values due process, which involves identifying and punishing those truly responsible for the crime in question. Side opposition by default denounces due process and the rights, dignity, and needs of the victims of these crimes, all in the name of exonerating neglectful parents. In their model, if an unruly child, enabled by the negligent parents, commits a crime, there will be no accountability for the parents' causal role in the matter. This begs the question, who then will suffer for the parents' failures and the damage they have caused? The opposition seems satisfied with the answer being the victim. Second opposition, we do not deny that there are many other factors that contribute to a child's behavioral outcomes. But since you missed it, I'll say it again. While parents are not the absolute determinants of behavioral outcomes in children, they must still bear the responsibility to provide guidance and discipline, whether or not it is received. Opposition, the motion doesn't talk about just parents so. It talks about negligent parents. Your failure to acknowledge this over and over represents much of your time wasted, falsely contending that we want to punish parents and issue these punishments out like Oprah. You are punished, you are liable. We want to hold negligent parents liable for willfully ignoring patterns of deviant behavior that turns into crime. Helicopter parenting, abuse, and all the other horrors you've mentioned that our stance would supposedly lead to are all forms of neglect of children. It is neglect of the responsibility that parents owe to their children to provide love loving, nurturing, and stable homes. And if that contributes to their child being continuously deviant, then those parents must be held criminally liable if that child commits a crime. I also take issue with this idea that parents will be burdened and stressed and so on and so forth by resolution. But opposition, that is the job. In a world of negative influences and imperfect supervision, parents still retain the responsibility to discipline and guide their children, however difficult it may be. Failure to do this, which enables the child to commit the crime according to the motion, for this reason, must result in criminal liability for the crime committed by the child. They are criminally liable because the child committed a crime. What is unfair and unjust is for a crime to be committed and a victim suffers, but the child is not fully held responsible, and as you would have it, neither is the parent. How would justice be served? Opposition, you tried it. This is far from scapegoating. It is assigning the appropriate accountability to the person responsible for the crime. Under the law, children cannot be held fully responsible for their actions. We are addressing the root cause, which is the negligence that enabled the bad behavior that turned into a crime. Judges, our stance is superior because it strikes a balance between fairness, deterrence, and societal well-being. We ensure that negligent parents, the true perpetrators of offenses against the state, are fairly punished and that no community bears the unchecked cost of preventable crime. Thank you.
Thank you so very much to you, prop government reply speaker, and to all our debaters who did fantastically well. Very well done. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings this debate to a close. You've just witnessed the grand finals of the MLCA, that's the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Human Rights High Schools Debate Competition for 2024. You will soon hear the results of the previous match as well as this one. In the meantime, please meet and greet each other, and let's exhibit the value of human rights on a special day such as today.
Wow, what a debate, ladies and gentlemen. Give the teams a round of applause. Now, the minister is quite zealous and enthusiastic to come and make some remarks on the debate that just happened. So, Minister, the floor is yours.
I'm delighted that I was able to stay and listen to the arguments presented. Congratulations to both teams. I can see that each team has done good research. Sound arguments have been presented. And I think even the real parliament could learn a little thing from you. You know, responsibility for criminal behavior is something that we grapple with in the society. And anything having to do with parents and children is a sensitive issue. And I hope that in preparing the research, in doing the research and preparing your arguments, you would have really used the opportunity to think about what is happening in the society and things that you see in your school environment, in your home. Ambassador Celie Monteith and I were talking, and she was asking what happened to all the students who debated or who came up through the school system debating. Good question. Where are they? I can speak for myself. Here I am. And I know where a lot of my team members are. But I'm really, really pleased that I had the opportunity to hear you. So now, may I have the privilege of a photograph with both teams? We come forward.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. You've seen the debates, you've heard the arguments, you've heard the claims, the warrants, and the impacts. Now, it's time to announce the winners. Have you seen your winners, ladies and gentlemen? Now, to do the honors of announcing the winners for each match, for the third place playoffs, we'll be having the chair adjudicator, Mr. Ravon Thomas Matthews, making this announcement.
Thank you very much, Xavier. So, for the third place playoff, where we saw in proposition Herbert Morrison Technical High School, and in opposition, Team Titchfield High School. The judges, via unanimous decision, have deemed that the team that has copped the third place prize, who will be walking away with a trophy and some other goodies, is a team with students. And that school is the Titchfield High School. Congratulations, Titchfield High School debaters, the five-member squad. Please make your way up so that you can receive your trophies, gift baskets, and other lovely awards. Congratulations, Team Titchfield High School. And to hand out the award for fourth place is going to be Dr. Amenia. And while we get Dr. Amenia coming up, while there is no award for the best debater for that match, we think it is still good to commend that individual. And that is the third speaker from Team Titchfield, Renee Henry. All right, thank you very much. We invite the fourth place team, Herbert Morrison, to make the way up to receive their award. All right, and of course we have some replica trophies for you guys as well as gift bags for the entire team. All right, congratulations, Team Herbert Morrison Technical High School. Another round of applause. And to receive the third place trophy, as well as individual trophies for each team member, along with prizes from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, we invite the third place winners, Titchfield High School. Congratulations, Titchfield High School. And this award will be presented by Mr. Michael Morgan.
Congratulations, Titchfield High. Ladies and gentlemen, we have additional prizes and awards, and these prizes are the Best Debater prize and also the prize for the spirit of the debate. And those awards will be announced by Mr. Ravon Thomas Matthews. Round of applause.
Thank you very much. So this award is for the best debater. The best debater, this award is calculated by assessing the individual who through from round 1 up to the quarterfinals would have accumulated the highest number of points. Yes, so we don't take into consideration the semifinals, we don't take into consideration the grand finals. It's the individual who from round 1, 2 into the quarterfinals would have received the highest total scores. And this was a really lovely one, right? And so, I want to do something a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to announce the individual who was the second best debater. We think it is important to give some credit to this individual, even if it is that they won't be receiving the Best Debater prize. We want to acknowledge that individual. And so, ending on a cumulative 238 points, the second best debater comes to us from Wilmers High School, and that is Kyle Kamika. That's right. Give them a big smile, Mr. Kamika. Thank you very much. And so, the best debater from the competition comes to us from the team Herbert Morrison Technical High School, and that is the second speaker, Joanna Hill. Congratulations, Joanna. Joanna Hill has done commendable. And of course, we'll invite Mr. Kill to give this award. Joanna Hill has performed commendably throughout. Mr. Mikkel Jackson. Miss Mikkel Jackson. Joanna Hill would have performed very commendably throughout this competition, receiving a total of 240 points throughout rounds 1 to the quarterfinals. Congratulations, Joanna. Another round of applause for Joanna. Indeed, congratulations. I tend to be a very hard scorer, and I'm very happy to say that Joanna is one of the few individuals who have received from me a score greater than 80 in their match. Another round of applause for Joanna. And we have one more award. That is the award before I turn over for the first and second place, another sectional award that is for the spirit of the competition. This award goes to the individual who, in the estimation of the judges, fully embodies what it is that we're trying to do here. This person is fiery and passionate and very enthused about the topics that we're going to be talking about and that they have debated. The individual who receives the Spirit of the Competition award is Renee Henry from Team Titchfield High School. And of course, we'll invite again Miss Mikkel Jackson to give out this award. Congratulations indeed. All right, I will now take my leave and invite Mr. Xavier McFarlane and Jermaine Barrett to give the announcement that we have all been waiting for, the first and second place winners.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to associate myself with the protocols previously established. Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, we would have all just had the privilege of witnessing a very, very enthralling, ideas-filled, impactful grand finals featuring two titanic teams. We had on-side proposition, or as I term it, side government, St. Jago High School out of St. Catherine, and opposing St. Jago were the men from St. Andrew, Wolmer's Boys School. Can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to indicate whether or not you agree with this, I think the match that just ended was a match befitting the caliber of this competition on this great day, International Human Rights Day. And so, it is a unanimous decision, ladies and gentlemen. I will begin, first of all, by telling you who the best debater in the match was. Now, we don't have an award for that, but we're going to give them a resounding round of applause. That debater comes to us from St. Jago High School. That speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the third speaker, Kiona Cunningham. Congratulations, Kiona Cunningham. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will announce the winner, the champions of the MLCA Human Rights High Schools Debate Competition, the inaugural staging. The winner of this competition comes to us from a school that competed just a while ago. That school, ladies and debaters, are you nervous? You're nervous? Is it Wolmer's Boys School? Is it St. Jago High School? It is indeed St. Jago High School. Congratulations, St. Jago High School, on taking the championship title in this inaugural debate competition. And of course, applause and commendations are in order for the second place team, Wolmer's Boys School. All right, so I will now yield the lectern to Xavier McFarlane, our moderator.
The awards are being presented by the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Wayne O. Robertson. To hand out the second place prizes, P.S. Seeley Monteith. All right, everyone. So we are at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights is our business. And as we think about the motions that would have been debated today and throughout the entire competition, I want us all to think about International Human Rights Day, to celebrate it and go in our communities acknowledging that we have our rights, our future right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the National Human Rights High School Debate Competition 2024. I'm Xavier McFarlane. Good afternoon.